Welcome to Not Starving Artists, the podcast. I'm your host, Brooke Benson, money coach and equity actor. I am your financial cheerleader, here to help you build your financial confidence and have power over your money. The best part, no budgeting or bi-weekly paychecks required. I went from being a broke BFA grad having weekly panic attacks about money to a financially confident, wealth-building actor and business owner. Money gets to feel fun, simple, and sexy, and I am going to show you how. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. I am so excited to be talking with Camron today. Camron was one of the people inside of Cashed Up Creatives, my online course when it was a group program, and he is an artist extraordinaire living in New York City, and I am going to let him introduce himself before we dive into all things artistry, money, fundraising for your own show, etc. Camron, please tell the people about you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Camron. Yes, artist extraordinaire. What a privilege to be called that. I am a multi-hyphenate right now, director, producer, writer. My background prior to that, my training is in acting. I've done like the regional Shakespeare thing. So true multi-hyphenate here, originally born and raised in Texas. I've been in Manhattan now since 2021. I'm a proud, queer, former Southern boy making cool art in Manhattan.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So, where I'd love to start this conversation, before we get into all of like the juicy artistic stuff that you've been doing currently, I would love to know when you were a younger artist. We talk about the starving artist trope all the time. We've had conversations about the starving artist trope. So, I'd love for you to share about your relationship with money growing up, like up until the past year or two.
Absolutely. So my individual relationship with money, I think, was largely, if we go like all the way back, colored by my parents' opinions, which were that it was like a top priority. I don't think I was ever told that it needs to be stressful, but the attitudes I saw surrounding money were consistently stress adjacent. You can never have too much. You should always try for more. And then whenever I remember, like specifically when it really started to cement for me, was probably around junior year of high school, when you're starting to think about colleges. And I was like, I'm going to go to college for the arts. And my parents were like, you're obviously very talented. However, is that going to financially lead to the life you want? And I was like, well, I'm 16, 17. I think I can make it happen. There was a lot of, especially in conjunction with artistry, this idea that you cannot have a surplus, or you cannot have you won't have stability if you're pursuing artistry. And that was pretty pervasive, I would say, through like my early artistic years, like through college. I was like, okay, this is simply going to mean my job options are service industry or high flexibility and also, frankly, high physical workload day jobs in order to be able to be an artist. I do not have that belief anymore. I do not hold that to be true. But when you're young, and in my case, I'm the only like professional artist in the family, so there was no way for me to know any different, right? So like no tea, no shade to my teachers, instructors, and parents, but I think like that was just based on the outside perspective. So my relationship to money has always been, it's going to be tight. Like the first thought is it's going to be challenging, difficult, generally not positive vibes with money.
Yeah. And then what was your first like nugget of catalyst of like, oh, wait, I want this to be different, or oh, wait, this gets to be different, or like, oh, I've hit my rock bottom isn't the right word, but like your tipping point, like even if there was multiple of them, what was like that beginning little kernel?
I think the beginning kernels were, well, if I'm going to speak really candidly, where it started was especially relocating to New York. So I was primarily doing art in Houston, and a lot of us were in the same boat, monetarily, career-wise. Like my age bracket of artists, we kind of had similar experiences. I moved to New York. I see the off-Broadway scene, I see the Broadway scene, I see the people who are working at this high caliber. I do some digging. I see how many of these people uh, have financial security, whether that is prior to being an artist, in addition to, but I was like, okay, there's this ease that they have because they have access to more money. But they're not all, I was like, they're not all like, rich kids. I know there's the whole pay to play conversation, which does exist. But I was like, okay, there are these people who are doing what I want to do. And they also are not in hospitality. And I also know they're not like booking back to back. They're doing this one big show. And then they're like teaching and instructing and whatever. And I was like, okay, And the longer I lived in New York and the more that I realized how in love I was with the city, the more I was like, I also want more money to be able to enjoy this place. I mean, it is expensive. I think you can absolutely, some of my favorite things to do are still free. I was like, I want more money. If I'm being real, I want more. I would like more because to me, money just means more mobility, more ability to have control over my time is really what money affords. So it started shifting there, and then I started seeing some of my friends who were starting their own businesses. I think both of these people may be clients of yours, so I'm going to name drop them. Emily Wold, who is she was in grad school when I was in undergrad, so I have known her for a long time.
Love you, Emily.
Yes, Emily, it's time for a yearly catch-up call. If you hear this, I will be texting you. She is a voiceover actor, I think predominantly now, and started her own business doing voiceover coaching. And then I saw Caleb Clark, who was also in grad school when I was in undergrad in the same acting program. And
shout outs to Josh and Rin.
Yes, love. They were starting their own coaching businesses. And then incrementally, I don't know how you made it to my feed. You did, probably because I had mutuals. And I was like, yeah, fuck this starving artist thing. And truly, when I started, so catching us up, now I'm in New York, I'm working hospitality. I'm realizing I have an investment account just sitting, not getting any love because I don't know what to do with it. Not really loving the financial advisor that was attached to it at the time. Like, I was just like, I don't, and I'm like, and I want more. And I truly was thinking, okay, maybe for 2 years, I just go corporate because money became, my scarcity mindset became so overwhelming that I was like, I need to, this voice is so loud, I need to fix whatever this money thing is. Now, what I now know to be is it was more that I needed to work on my relationship to money than that there was like an actual literal like danger level scarcity. So those are my tipping points. And then I finally, you were, the stars aligned and you were running a promo and I said, fuck it. I think it was this time last year, which July is my birthday month. I'm 30 years old tomorrow.
Oh my God, I didn't realize it was tomorrow. Happy birthday.
Thank you. And so I was literally like, fuck it. I'm doing something for myself for my 29th year. Let's get financially literate and let's learn from someone who gets it. Because I think as an artist, if you are talking to someone about money who knows you're an artist and they themselves are not, it is my experience that it can often feel like you're being talked down to. Whether it is intentional or not, I'm not saying everyone does this, but my experience with people are like, well, it's kind of complicated for you because, how are you going to predict your income or how are you going to, and so when I saw that you were doing the Cash Up Creatives, I was like, well, I know she gets it. Yeah, that's a summary of the journey.
Yeah, because what do you feel like are the biggest things that would grate on your ears of like, before you did this work, like what were the sentences that would come out of people's mouths or like perceptions they had of artists and money that just really got your goat?
Oh, I mean, for me, I think the big one would be that when I booked a couple of commercials when I was living in Houston, which the hour to payment ratio on commercials is Gorgina George, beautiful, we love her, right? And I remember immediately, I would share that with people. I'd be like, oh my God, I worked for like a day and a half and I got like, thousands of dollars, whatever. And they'd be like, oh, well, you should just do more commercials. Like there was always a qualification of the valuable work was the high income work.
Mm-hmm.
When I was doing repertory Shakespeare at Houston Shakespeare Festival, love you, hello, go Cougs. I love that process, but it's attached to the college, and I was a student at the time, so my pay was what it was. And I remember being like, I booked my first professional gig. I'm working with equity actors. I have supporting roles in 2 Shakespeare shows. How cool that I get to flex these muscles. I'm so excited. And then it was, okay, well, how much are you making? And they'd be like, are you sure you want to do that? Like the non-artists, the people who were concerned for my financial well-being. And I'd be like, well, yeah, this is where I'm at in my career. This is the necessary next step for me currently. And so it was just like the association with like, oh, you should do movies. I'm sure we all get this one. Have you thought about like, what do you need to do to get into movies?
Just make the call. Just do
or
that.
like being like a funny person. You know, there was the like, oh well, you know, I know someone who knows like, you know, Tyler Perry. Like, what if you go to Atlanta? Or I know someone who knows, you know, this person who's a casting director. Maybe you could talk to them and see if they could get you an audition. And it's like, I know that that is not necessarily how it works, but I understand that I also don't have the time to educate you about how the industry works. And it just feels like if my project, just there was a constant qualification of, is the project worth it based on what you paid, rather than, or not what you paid, what you were paid.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was my biggest gripe, and things like, oh, well, that must be hard.
Mm.
Oh, well, what if you just took a break? Oh, well, what if, you know, what are, I think this is well intentioned, or what are your friends doing?
Yeah.
It's all well intentioned, but it, you know,
I feel
those are
like
the gripes.
there's this energy towards artists of people who aren't in artistic and creative industries of like artists have a problem. Like it, not that we are a
Yes,
problem, but the
yes.
perception is they're either struggling creatively or struggling financially. And so there's this very subtle but heinous energy where it's not like anyone's talking down to you as an artist, but there's always this energy of like, here, let me help you solve this problem. Oh, I have the answer, just do more commercials. Or like, are you sure you want to do that because it's not paying you? Or like, oh, I see other people doing this, I'm gonna help. Like,
Or it's the underhanded compliment of, well, I never could have done that. That would have stressed me out. That sounds really
yeah.
challenging. I'm glad that you're managing that. Rather than just being like, hell yeah, you're pursuing your dreams. Being like,
Yeah.
sounds scary. But I'm like,
Right.
shut up.
Yeah. And this is why I'm so glad that you wanted to come on the podcast, right, when we reached out, because I think it's so important that there not only are there artists who are helping like teach and support other artists in financial matters, but that artists are collectively talking to each other about money in the artistic career side, right? The longevity side, because not to be like exclusive in our circle, but truly we are the only people who get it. We get that you would want to take a lower pay for an artistically fulfilling project, but then let's also talk about what that's doing to the bank account and how are we solving the bank account. Like all of us
Right.
being way more vocal about this, because talking to anyone who doesn't have this weird crazy heart thing that is leading the way of our lives, right? Like it
Right.
is insane and it doesn't make sense to anyone who's out of our circles. So, with that being said, I want to talk more about your journey with money. Like we talked about where you were, your relationship with money. So then you had these little seeds of catalyst. You joined Cashed Up Creatives and you really, I mean, took your relationship with money by the freaking horns and ran
Mm-hmm.
with it. So I'd love to know for you, when you think back on that time, what were some of the biggest like shifts or ahas or things that changed for you that felt like those big needle movers?
Mm. So I'm going to speak to the ones that are still like resonating and reverberating with me today.
Yes.
I'm going to be really transparent. So much of it was mindset and attitude based, and not necessarily the actual rearranging, although the rearranging of the bank accounts incredible. But the things that were huge needle movers for me was like realizing like I think you said something along the lines of like your money is there for you. You get to make the call. You get to say yes and no. And I was like, oh, I was approaching money almost as if it was this I wasn't using it as a tool. I was hoarding it like a perishable resource. Yeah. Like this thing that was going to move on its own rather than something that I decided how it flowed. I was in control of the process. So that was a huge, like, mental rewiring that I had to do. Um, Getting over the fear of logging in and looking at the accounts, getting over the fear of saying that I didn't know things. I think that is something big life theme for me last year is like, be afraid, say you're afraid, ask for help, do it anyway. Like that for me is when the money magic started to happen. And I will say, like, I think I had an expectation doing Cash Up Creatives. I was like, I'm gonna do this. And then it's gonna be set. And life has lifed in the last year. Okay.
So, with that, then, life is lifing and the expectations you had about what your work with money would be. I would
Mhm.
love to know, since it's been a year since you did the course, right? But you have the tools, you learned the things. I know through the duration of the course, you got 3 months ahead on bills. I'd love to know then what happened, right, with your on deck buffer, with your money, and then how the tools have played into the bumps in life lifing. Tell me more about the messy stuff.
Okay. This is really crazy timing. Thank God I did your program when I did. So I think we ended like the week after Labor Day, if I remember correctly,
Yeah.
like right after September, whatever. Fast forward to I think our last meeting, my family was in town visiting me because I took the
Mhm.
call from the hotel room.
Yes.
My family leaves. I return to work, and the next week, fired, no income. Boop, it's gone.
God, you messaged me about this. I remember. Uh-huh.
And I went, oh my God. I won't get into the details. It was, I'm so tempted to shit on that, but I'm not going to. Um, it was not a, it was sudden without any notice. And ultimately, I don't think it was just whatever. I'm much better for it now. I'm in a much better place now. But okay, so that happens. And I'm like, well, okay, thank God I have these tools. Um, Fire drilling it, your little word has become a huge mantra of mine that I think now I even have my friends saying it.
Oh my God.
Um,
Wait, can you talk more about the fire drill and how you utilize it and what goes on in your brain if people haven't heard me talk about it before?
yeah, okay. So losing the job, income is at zero. It's September, not exactly the season where people are hiring servers, hospitality, whatever. So fire drilling it is going, oh fuck, I'm scared. What am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? You log in, you look at the money, you say, okay, I'm 3 months ahead. I don't really want to use all of it. Worst case scenario, how long do I have until not having employment means I am like SOL packing up and moving back home? Okay, 3 months. Probably I can do something to qualify for unemployment and or find part-time employment until I land at the right job. So that 3 months, actually worst case scenario, will probably be stretched to 4 or 5. I doubt it will take that long if I'm hustling because now my job is finding a job. Okay, I have time. Still feeling stressed. Then my fire drill looks like from there. So I know, okay, I'm safe for this amount of time. We don't need to panic. We can feel the fear, we can process the fear, but we need to acknowledge that it's just like that is our brain telling us something is not working. It is an emotional reaction. It does not mean that I'm actually in danger. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Then it looks like it's going, okay, well, do I want to pivot to an identical career path? Do I want to stay in hospitality? Do I want to take this time to pursue something new? Like now, this scary thing. For me, I don't know if you taught me this, but I'm going to give you the credit. Let's reframe it as an opportunity. What are my multiple paths here?
Yeah. And I love
What
that you're saying this because pulling yourself out of the panic via the fire drill opened up the pathway for you to be able to say, oh, okay, maybe there's multiple paths and opportunities here. And that's where we want to end up. So, yes, please continue.
And then I'm gonna be honest, it was like a real shock, and I said, you know what? I'm in a huge season of change. I did this financial creative thing. I just turned 29. My family just came to visit me. I'm feeling I had also just come off of doing a reading of a play I had written. We
Yeah.
had our workshop last summer. So I was like, okay, things I've been in New York long enough that things are starting to happen. So what I actually did, I was like, it's my money, it's my tool. What do I need? I'm gonna take a week just to simmer.
Mm.
Which previously I would have been like, you're fucking you got fired, and you're like, I'm just gonna chill for a week. I'm just going to let the dust settle because I do feel like everything just exploded.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and I started making decisions based on what I wanted, not what I think we worked a lot on in my coaching specifically, identifying my voice versus the voices of others in my relationship to money and how I want to navigate situations. And so in this case, I was like, you know, I don't want my parents' voice creeping back in, so I'm simply not going to tell them until I find a new job. And I didn't. And then I was like, okay, let's look at our money. What feels most urgent? Are we gonna hustle and pop back into hospitality so we can get the income coming back? Or are we gonna try and go the corporate route? And at first I thought, okay, maybe this is my sign to pivot to a higher income path, higher immediate income path, but turn down the dial on the artistic stuff. And I did that for maybe a week or two and was getting like, I know the market was bad, but like such strong zero traction that I was like, okay, the universe is saying no to that. So okay, back to hospitality. I don't get it, whatever, fine, we'll do it. Um, my friend who had just directed the reading of my show that I wrote in August is one of two of the longest time employees at Verse Bar and Hell's Kitchen. And he's like, we have a barback server position opening. You have restaurant experience. You are more than qualified to do that, to do this job. Do you want to come in and talk to the general manager? And I said, yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
So because of the artistic thing I did,
Mm-hmm.
I now have employment. I'm still employed at Verse. I I decided to continue really running with artistic stuff, which I'm sure we're going to segue into soon.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still employed at Verse. We're in June. So in April or May, which was about 6 months after being at Verse, I'm now a barback server and per diem manager.
Wow.
Got the promotion. I'm working with fabulous, fabulous queer folks at a queer-owned business.
Amazing.
My general manager, Ryan, they are a professional opera singer, so they fully support us artistic gig workers. We are surrounded by a community of people who also love artists. It's Hell's Kitchen. We're literally a block over from like all the
Right.
Broadway theaters. I'm getting Broadway folk popping into the bar, getting to say hi. Oh my god, hi, I love your work. So glad you're here. What can I get you? You know, whatever. Um, yeah. Is it exactly what I planned? No. But did I land? Am I good? Yeah. Am I gonna be really honest? Yeah, it took a couple of months. There is money that I had to spend. Like I'm not currently 3 months ahead on it.
Yeah.
There's money that I had to spend, and then I have not put myself in a position that I am going to use that ownership. I have not put myself in a position to replace it yet. It is still on my radar. I am okay. My income is coming in consistently enough that it will be there are opportunities, right? But the training allowed me to look at all this and say, what decision am I making right now?
Yeah.
Am I aware that like my financial like my bank accounts don't look how I would like them to?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm aware. I'm proud of the work I'm doing. They will get back there. I know what I need to do. It's okay. We're not in a deficit.
Mm-hmm.
We're not in debt. We still have paid off all, you know, the credit card is still zeroed out every month. Like we're not accruing debt. We are not in a season of, oh my God, season of spending, season of saving, season of sustaining. So we are not in a season of saving yet, but I'm like working on, you know, like the training has allowed me to navigate this all. And then in the meantime, like I got a promotion the same month I was fundraising for a show, and I'm lead producer on a freaking full ass production of a show, and I'm networking like cuckoo bananas. And I really, truly, in my heart of hearts, believe like you're catching me on the precipice of another artistic leap forward uh, for the next calendar year. Like I'm really feeling like, okay, traction is amping up.
I
Damn, I
love
rambled. I
all of
rambled.
this.
I have fun cutting all of that.
No, it's all staying in. I'm gonna come back to, there's like things I took notes on where I'm like, we gotta come back to that. We gotta come back to that before we move into now like the show that you are directing and producing. So the one of the first things that I want to point out is like, and I want everyone to hear this too, like how you just spoke about your money while in currently a season of sustaining the the clarity and the calm that you have speaking about your money in like the neutrality of it, of like, here's what I have in the bank, here's where we're headed, here's where I'm at, here's how I'm staying calm, here's what I believe is coming. And that neutrality is what allows you and all artists to still be able to do artistic work and make sound decisions with like understanding the math of the bank accounts rather than just like closing eyes and saying, I'm going to trust that it's all going to work out, or running into panic and getting the corporate job, right? It's like balancing that in between because as artists, right? Our money, not only like in how we make income is different, but how we have to navigate our seasons of spending, sustaining, and saving, because there are, right, like you said, you have this gut feeling. You're on the precipice of something, right? I just had a recent season where I was like, I'm on the precipice of something and I have to pull back in certain areas. I'm gonna use my on deck buffer, and then I like booked this show. But that's like a gut feeling that no one
Mhm.
else is gonna get, where you're like, I am gonna I think we talked about slingshot energy when we were coaching together. I don't remember if we talked
I
about this.
don't know.
Slingshot energy of like pulling back on the slingshot. And like to other people it looks like you're going backwards. Like if someone were to look at your bank account, someone else's bank account,
Oh,
whatever, when they're
yes.
right
Yes.
pulled back, it's like, oh, I'm going backwards. And if you're not the person pulling the slingshot, you have no idea where it's headed. But then you
Right.
let go and you like shoot forward. And this is that like the fluctuation, the difference of money for creatives, where someone else, right? Like this brings me to what you said about like not sharing with your parents for the time being when you were
Hmm.
taking your week off, right? Before
Hmm.
jumping into job searching, where you're like, I'm going to keep that sacred because I know they're only going to see the fear and the scariness, where
Yes.
I can see how this is actually a slingshot, right? But other people won't be able to see that. So there's a sacred energy that you protected that allowed you to take that time, which then ended up with this job that you didn't know was coming, but there was a reason you wanted to take a week.
No, and it would not like I cannot speak to trusting timing enough because that job opened up after I lost my job. So when I was starting my job search, that job was not available.
Right.
So like, and had I not chosen Billy as my director, then Billy would not have told me about this job. Had I not taken the job I'm currently at, I would not have had an additional space to do a fundraiser at. I would not, I literally have cast one of my coworkers as my lead. So yeah, trusting the timing has been so huge in all of this too.
So, like you said at the beginning, the bulk of the work was mindset, emotional, relational. And it was like, yes, you set up the money flow method, you have your cash flow system, and you know your numbers. But I think that's what is shocking to a lot of people who come into money work in Cashed Up Creatives or in one-on-one money mentorship, is how quickly we kind of knock out the logistical stuff because we need that to
Yes.
be so simple. And you need to be able to understand your high level numbers so that when you're in a season like you're currently in, where you're like, I'm in a season of sustaining, I know exactly what it costs to live, I know what's coming in, what's going out, so that the rest of your brain space can go towards creative projects, trusting the timing. You're not in a panic mode, deciding you need to go to corporate. Like that's what artists require financially, is for it to be so simple to understand and so easy to maintain so that you can pull yourself out of a panic spiral and put all of your energy towards the shit that you actually like feel gut pulled towards.
Yes. And in addition to that, the tactic that you taught us of knowing like your hell yes and your no's when you do your audits. Like when
Can you
I'm looking at my
talk
spending,
more?
yes. Like when I'm looking at my spending, uh, and I'm like, damn, I have a week left of the month, and I'm like almost at what I want my flex spending to be for this month. What did I spend it on? Being able to browse through those purchases. So like I am still doing all of my spending on one credit card, and then so it's very easy to review the flex spending. My flex is on a credit card. My bills pulled from elsewhere. Being able to look at it and in real time navigate my purchases with, wait, is this a hell yes? Am I excited to swipe the card? Do I feel like, yep? I think the language that I used was yours of like, do I co-sign this decision?
Mm-hmm.
Like, would I sign and be like, yeah, approved? Boop, Cameron signs, I sign off. And I'm not perfect. There have been months where I look back and I'm like, oh, yeah, 2 or 3 of these outings, that was peer pressure. I didn't actually want to spend money on that. And that's okay. Um, but it's so sexy when I look back and I go, well, my spending is higher, but I co-sign on all of it. It's not going to kill me. Let me adjust real quick. You know, whether that means picking up another shift, whether that means, well, it doesn't really ever, it hasn't meant one-time savings. But, you know, like it's never been crazy. But knowing your numbers and also knowing like sometimes it's okay. Sometimes it's okay to like co-sign on an unplanned purchase that feels right, that is an opportunity or is something that it's going to be very fulfilling to you, even if the old version of you would have been like, well, that's unnecessary. What's an example? It didn't work out, but I was planning to drop $200 on the immersive masquerade tickets, and I didn't wake up early enough to get them. But I was like, yeah, but it's okay. They're going to extend. They're not going to be doing that show for only 6 weeks. But I was like, did I really know that that was happening? No. Can I co-sign a $200 purchase that I wasn't planning for? Yes. Will it break me for the next month? No. I just will choose to spend less on other things, and it's fine. Like there is that attitude trickles over into real life, where to some of my friends' dismays, we will be out, and they're like, "We're getting another round," and I'm like, "No." I was like, "I will stay and join you while you get another round," and they're like, "What do you mean?" And I'm like, I'd be more excited to spend that $15 on something else later.
Yeah.
I'm happy to be here with you, but I don't want to spend it on that.
Mm-hmm.
And people can't really argue with that. Whenever you're like, I wouldn't feel good spending money on that.
Yeah.
It's just not for me right now. It's not. I'm not. No judgment on anyone else. And that's just like the most immediate example. Or like this happened the other day. I was stressed. I had a craving. I wanted a sweet treat. I got from my front door halfway to the front door of the apartment building. I said, do you really want to spend your money on that? Not because it's bad, but like what you're about to go do. Is this an emotional reaction purchase? Or is this like an actually like this is you want to self-soothe and it's chill? And I stood in the hallway of my apartment building for 10 seconds and I said, I don't actually want this right now. And I turned around and I came back inside and I made myself coffee and I sat down. Like,
wow. Mm-hmm.
These are little, but this is something that the past versions of myself would not be able to do because I wouldn't have understood. Like, let's be real. Like, when are we being impulsive? And when are we making choices where I'm like, indefinitely going to be okay with this? And sometimes it's both. Sometimes it is impulsive and you're like, and also I co-sign.
Yeah.
But that language is so helpful and empowering. It builds a kind of autonomy of like, this is my money, this is my tool for my life.
Mm.
And there is some comfort to know also, because, you know, after working with you, to know that I do have investments that are sitting over there that are doing their little dance by themselves to make me money. Is great. But I think also you can achieve this with or without that. But it's an added bonus to know, like, when the voice creeps out and says, you're not doing it, you're not doing enough. Why aren't you in a season of saving yet? Mm-hmm. It's like, well, I'm working on it. I'm working on it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. We want to get there sooner. I hear you, little voice. We are impatient to get to season of savings. Okay.
Because that was a big thing for you, is overcoming the impatience.
Girl,
of like,
it's not overcome yet.
Overcoming in the current tense. But I remember, right? Like, yeah, it was when you set up the money flow and you saw like how you could be creating your savings and there was excitement about your financial future. I remember it was like the next week you're like, why are they not full? Why are they not full yet? So, how have you been navigating that impatience energy, specifically with your money, but in other areas that that's trickled into as well?
Um, Managing impatience will be a lifelong journey for me.
Mhm.
My parents will tell you this. My friends will tell you this. We know Cameron is the second I know what I want, I'm like, so where is it? Um, how am I navigating it in terms of money? Um, I think my impatience with money is still linked to a little bit of leftover scarcity mindset, right? Like if it's not here now, will it ever come? So I combat it with so the conversation in my head here, I'm going to like verbalize the conversation in my head. I think this is the most concise way to explain this. So what happens is like my brain is like, we need to be in the season of savings, we need to be saving more, why aren't you saving? And I say, okay. I'll lose some of last month's numbers. Okay, well last month we were able to put like I don't remember the exact word, but last month we were able to put between like $400 and $600 back into our savings account. That's huge. We haven't been able to do that in months. Okay, well, how are you going to make sure that happens next month? I'm going to do my best, but next month I also am going into performances of the show. There will be certain guests and people attending that I'm going to be needing to take time to see because that could lead to financial profit that is way more than picking up shifts at the bar in the future. That could also lead to creative opportunities that would mean way more to me intrapersonally, personally as an artist, right? Okay. So it's on the radar. Don't freak out. We are working towards it. And we have nothing going on at the end of the month. So if we want to pick up extra shifts at the end of the month, we will be able to save something. Okay. All right. So it's reminding myself that it's not a scarcity thing.
Can I just say, your inner dialogue has such a kinder and more confident voice than last year. Like, I
Yeah.
just, as you're talking to yourself and back to yourself, I'm just like, wow, that's exactly how we all should be talking to ourselves in our head. And so I just want to note that like, I'm just really happy for you, but I also want people to hear that like, the anxious and stressed thoughts are still going to come in. The real work is then how you talk back to yourself, because then that's what creates the different action and the different like feelings in your body to actually then do what you want to do, i.e. produce and direct this incredible show that we are finally going to now talk about.
Yes. Yes.
So can you just like talk about the show and how it came to be? And then I want to talk specifically about fundraising for it. So go for it.
Yes. Okay, so this project is years in the making. I found Angry Fags by Topher Payne when I was still living in Houston. Can't remember if it was pre-pandemic or like just on the cusp, but we are in the COVID adjacent era of the world. I think it was just before because there was some audition and I was like, my audition monologues are stale. And I was specifically like, what I now know to be at the beginning of my journey of being like, I want to do queer art pretty explicitly for a little bit. Or explicitly, whatever. Anyway, I ordered the script looking for a monologue. And there are monologues, sure. But I was like, this script is good. Angry Fags, for those of you who don't know it, the play is set in Atlanta, Georgia, post-Trump. It starts in a world that is workplace, dark comedy, life is rough for Bennett. And then his ex-boyfriend is attacked outside of a gay bar. And in the state of Georgia, it is not a hate crime. It's only a hate crime at the federal level. And then we dip into the real dark comedy, and Cooper and Bennett, in the words of Topher on the back of the play, they realize they're not respected, they're not feared, and it's time for that to change. And so we go on a vigilante revenge journey with them. Fell in love with the script, 2018, 2019, started working at a restaurant in New York. Chevy, who is now my co-producer and will be playing Cooper, a part that he is so beautifully built for. I knew him for 2 weeks. He had gotten hired at the restaurant that I was fired from, that we already talked about. And I had known him for 2 weeks and I said, hey, like, I have this script, Angry Fags. I'm just going to give it to you. Like, I don't know if you know it. You're perfect for one of the two leads and you should look at it because it is so suited to you. It kept coming up. He's like, you know that play you gave me? You know that play you gave me? You know that play? And yeah, things politically got to where they are. And me, Chevy, and Charlie said, it has to happen. Let's do it. And we sat down and we had a meeting and we said, what do we know about producing plays? What do we not know? Where can we start? Because in Houston, I had directed and produced 2 shows. So I wasn't coming at this totally blind, but Manhattan as a whole, it's just different here. So that is a very long-winded explanation of how this play came to be. And then fundraising.
I want to hear about, because fundraising at its core is give us money to do this thing. So
Yeah.
that in and of itself, right, can create a lot of feelings, resistance, whatever, but you have done it beautifully. I saw the fundraising actually happen on Instagram. So please just tell us everything about your experience with specifically fundraising. Yeah.
Yes. So Charlie, who is one of my co-producers, is friends with Zach. Zach runs a nonprofit, the Valid Bodies Arts Project, and they also are a fundraising coach. So I'm going to be completely transparent and plug the Kickstarter guy and Zach, because they provided a lot of really useful tools for me and for my team that we opted to spend money up front for. That led to us ultimately navigating a $30,000 campaign successfully and raising $30,000 to do an equity showcase code production.
That's amazing.
Yes. So what I will say with fundraising, we did not have answers. We were like, here's what we know, here's what we need help with. We did do entirely crowdfunding. There was no corporate sponsorship at this level because we're not interested in starting a theater company. Artists, you have the option to start like an LLC or a nonprofit or whatever. That's just not in the cards for me. I like working freelance. I like being hired on as a producer. Well, I look forward to being hired on as a producer for your projects in the future. Because now I know how to do it, y'all, and I'm doing pretty dang good at it. And I'm interested in working freelance as a director. So we were like, we don't want to start a theater company. We're going to do the crowdfunding model. The way that we found success was knowing our why. And that why was not like unilateral for all of us. So it was saying, hey, it was not saying, hey, give us money for this project. It was saying, hey, this is Cameron asking you, my friend so-and-so, whatever. I'm doing really cool things artistically. I need help. It would mean so much for me to have you as a part of my artistic journey and supporting this next step that I'm going to take anyway. And here it comes again, trusting the process. Because what I will tell you, which I was prepped, Zach, our wonderful, wonderful campaign coach, she prepped us and told us, you're going to be surprised where the money comes from. There are going to be places you expect it to come from and places you don't. And damn, was that the truth. But we just had to get good with asking. Like you have to, when you're asking for money, and I think this goes for any financial negotiation. Like I think this goes for fundraising. I think this goes for negotiating salary. I think there is a compulsion to explain. To a degree, it's necessary, but I'm a big over-explainer. I'm sure y'all are picking up on that in this recording. I love to justify and to explain, right? But in negotiation, it's just saying, hey, I need this much to make this thing happen. How does that sound? And then let the other person come to you with questions. Or if they're like, well, I'm not so sure that it's worth it. Being like, well, here's exactly how I know it's worth it. But I understand if that's not a choice you want to make. All good. And for me, that looked like, look, I'm doing this somatic touching thing. It looked like quieting the anxiety in the voice and being like, it's safe. I feel, please tell me if you feel the same way. Lack of safety and money with artists is kind of a common.
Oh yeah, baked into our DNA.
Yeah, like money is not a safe thing to talk about, right?
Yes.
So it's just getting it's more or less exposure therapy. Just being like, fundraising is like, I'm just going to be For the next 30 days, I'm asking people for money every single fucking day.
So for you in this process, because there are so many people who I know would be terrified to start a fundraising campaign because it is very raw. And like you were even doing somatic touching, like
Mhm.
feeling safe talking about money and asking for money and even being vulnerable, sharing your why of why it's worth it for you to give not just this project, but me this money. Because at the end of the day, that's what fundraising is, right? And here's what you're getting when you put money towards this. So for you, exposure therapy, yes, obviously, but in the duration of that amount of time, or what do you think gave you the confidence or the courage to do it and to feel comfortable being in those conversations? Like what was that for you? Or what stuff came up that made you be like, "Oh shit, should I be doing this?" or "I don't want to do it," that you had to work through?
Well, I'm really glad that you are offering me this opportunity to tell you a lot of this has to do with you, bro. Seeing your coaching videos and seeing the way that you have put together your program. Like, I cannot lie to you. I got out my iPhone and I was like, okay, Brooke's videos kind of looked like this. And like, I led my fundraising campaign. I made weekly videos like good morning producers, da 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 da, whatever. And I put on the shirt and I did all the things to get ready. And I said, look, Brooke's doing it, it's working. Emily's doing it, it's working. Like, Josh is doing it, it's work. Like, I know all these people who are doing it, and I know damn well they all say that they didn't have the answers when they started. And I said, well, it's mine. I was afraid. There was no like
Yeah.
fuck it. But I knew I had the resources. I had you. I was actively paying for a campaign coach, which if you're interested in fundraising, I know I'm plugging everyone, but I am nothing if
I
not
love it.
without my community. I have no shame in saying that I did this with help.
Mhm.
The Kickstarter guy, Zach Latino, if you live in New York, check them out. I knew I had tangible materials and I knew I have my energy. And I know people generally like me. I know that I'm a nice guy. So I was like, fuck it, I'll make it. I know how to work a camera. There were nights where I was like, I don't fucking want to do this. And I combed my hair and put some dry shampoo in it. And it was 2 a.m. And I was like, you need to have this video to your team tomorrow. I know you don't want to do it. I put on a cute shirt and I was wearing nothing but underwear, but it was a chest up shot anyway. So they don't fucking need to know that. And I shot the video and I said, Cameron, you have 30 minutes. You're going to do as many takes as you can do and you're going to edit together what you have and it's going to be good enough. I would venture to say for most of us, our good enough is actually better than good enough, right? I
Yeah,
mean, I'm
100%.
highly self-critical, right? So when my good enough, people are like, that's great.
Just for everyone to know, there is only about 25% of anything that I put out there that I feel like this is gold. 75% of what I put out on the internet is like, okay, yep, it's got to be good enough, right? Just like the 2 in the morning thing where you're like, but it being out there is better than not being done. And you just realize like you have no idea what's going to resonate with people and you are so much more critical than anyone else would be, right? Like getting out of your own way. I'm so glad that you shared that. Please continue.
Once you started to see results, right? We did. It's not like we raised all the money at once, but we did have a massive in the first. I mean, I think we hit $10,000 in the first 4 or 5 days, which
Wow.
was a third of our goal. Now, there was a fuck ton of prep that went into that. However, when you start seeing those results, suddenly all the voices in your head that were like, I don't know, I don't think we can, you're like, oh, okay, now we just have to maintain. Like, okay.
Okay, so I want to talk about specifically some things that I remember from last year when we were working together. I want to
Yes.
talk about when you had a month where you made an extra $500 because that was one of
Yes.
your goals, right? Like we have a
Mhm.
training inside of the portal, make an extra $500 a month. That was a goal for you because you were like, I'm so excited about all of the things I want to put into savings and also spend. It was also pride, like there
Yeah.
was, right, money that needed to be
Mhm.
happening. So what was that process for you? What do you remember about making that extra $500 that month?
What I remember first and foremost is that the opportunities, in the words of Stephen, opportunity is not a lengthy visitor. So knowing that you want to make the extra $500 and moving through your world, kind of just knowing like, I wonder where there's an opportunity for more money. I wonder where it exists because I know a good chunk of the money came because I had a friend who was like, "Oh, we're going out of town and like kind of stressed about the pet sitter situation." And I said, "Oh, how much are you paying?" And it was like, I think if I remember correctly, It was for like 4 or 5 days. I had their apartment to myself. They were like, you can stay at our apartment with Kevin. Kevin is the dog.
I
Um,
love when dogs have people names. It's my favorite thing.
yes.
Kevin.
So they're like, you can just stay with Kevin if you want. And I was like, do I want to stay like on 80th and Columbus on the Upper West Side in a beautiful, like 1 bedroom apartment to myself with a beautiful little puppy? Sounds great. And it was like a couple $100. And I was like, oh, because my eyes were open, it was a no brainer. I was like, and I can spend this to be a staycation. I'll pack my laptop, I'll pack a little suitcase, and it'll be like a little like Airbnb in a neighborhood that I want to move to anyway at some point. So I can do
Mhm.
some manifesting. I can go to the coffee shops and think about like, okay, when I have my brownstone, I can go to this coffee shop every single day, whatever. So that that was kind of circumstantial. That was part of the money. But the opportunity only happened because I had my ears open.
Mhm.
Like if I hadn't been looking for it, I would have had to maybe seek it out in another way.
Mhm.
And then I'm going to be honest, I don't really remember where the extra money came from. It's because you also had us do that big long list.
Mhm.
Um, that mine always starts with sex work and drug dealing, even though those are not
Wait, can you
currently.
talk about the list? I don't know if I've talked about this on the podcast.
Sorry, that probably sounds crazy.
I know, I was
Sorry,
like, please
mom.
elaborate.
Yeah, so sorry. So Brooke within the training has you do a list where you kind of free association esque are jotting down any possible thing you could do for extra income that month, I believe is what you had. I don't remember if there's a time stipulation on it. But you just keep a running list of options. Anything that comes to you, and I joke, and Brooke prepares you in the training. Like there are going to be things that you write down that are not things that you actually want to do, that you have negative opinions of, that are, extreme emergency only, things that, are like wild and crazy and something you're not actually interested in. But among all of the noise, there will also be options that come up that you're like, oh, I hadn't considered that. Curiosity is also helpful here. Curiosity is a lifesaver, and just going, well, what if? Let's think about it for a minute. So that list, I believe whatever I did that month, it was something else from that list. But pet sitting was like something that came up on my list. Damn, I should revisit the list. I haven't thought about here in a minute.
She's a good
Um,
exercise at any stage of the game. And also, just to say that pretty much everyone's list who's ever done this has had the first couple is OnlyFans, selling my eggs, donating blood. Like
yeah,
those tend to
yeah,
be like when you're free associating in your brain of all the ways that you could make money, the goal of this exercise is to remove any barriers in the initial first draft phase of like, well, I wouldn't do that, or I can't do that, or that's ridiculous. Because from letting yourself put OnlyFans on the list or being a sugar baby on the list, then comes the brilliant business idea 12 items down that your brain would have automatically written off because of the walls that were up in front of OnlyFans and, selling your plasma, right? So like that's the
yeah.
goal of the exercise is get it on the sheet. You don't have to do it. All of those things are also valid ways to make money, but like which ones are you excited about, right?
Yeah, and let me tell you, as someone who actively was curious enough to dig into the feet pics market,
Uh-huh.
that is a whole freaking business. That market was too saturated for me. I was like, damn, I'm not niche enough, I don't think, for this. Like, feet pics is hard. If you do feet pics, hats off, because I
Yeah.
feel like those consumers are not as uh, complacent as they once were.
And
um,
also the inclination for so many of these things on the list, or the desire to like, what is the quickest way I could make money now? Going to the impatience thing, right? Like, this is a very common
yeah,
feeling of like the thought of, and this is why crypto is so enticing for how it's marketed. This is why stock picking is so enticing. This is why a lot of the marketing around starting your own business, like make 6 figures in 3 months, like owning your own online business, like all of that stuff is so enticing because we want it now, right? And then when you actually do digging and you start working on some of these things, you realize like, oh, I might need to have a little bit more patience. You can make $500 that month, right? Like you proved that
yep,
you can do it. We had other clients also do that. Um, but just like clocking that in the list, like normally your brain wants to go for how can I make the quickest money, the fastest and the easiest, and then you
right.
get to the real stuff that needs to get work done.
Right. So my brain then goes to, wow, you did it. So do it every month. Like this month, it would not be realistic to be like, what work can I add to my schedule to make money? So if I wanted to make $500 this month, it would be like, what can I do? What am I already doing that can make me money? Which is it's just a different kind of effort, right? And okay, now I know that I can make an extra $500 a month. So what happens if I start thinking about how can I use my money now to make me an extra $10,000 in 2 years, to make me an extra whatever. So I not necessarily all right now, but like these are things that I'm like already, like I'm producing a show right now. My brain is already going to, okay, we are on track for me to make a profit of whatever. How can I take that profit to generate a project that is either more profitable, more fulfilling, more advancing? Right. It's a similar principle with money. Like, okay, we've proven it can be done. Now, how can we do it? Interesting that the words that came to mind were better and more efficiently. But what I actually want to say here is how can we do it in a way that is most aligned with my wants and needs and desires? Mm-hmm. Because I'm talking now that I've been talking a lot about making more money because I do want more money than I currently have. But I actually do see for myself that there's a point where my income is enough that I'm like, yes, I want more, but I don't feel I need it in the way that now on occasion it can feel like a need. Once you prove to yourself that you can earn that extra $500, it's like, how can I utilize this principle to be most aligned in the future and amplify the money flow in the way that I need it to? Which is also the beauty of the training is I think you teach us, you give us a system and a money flow organization that is malleable so that I can say, well, I want more income specifically for this little bucket, specifically for this little trip. Or I can say, I want more income because I want all the numbers in these accounts to be spinning with higher digits, right? Like it's not a matter of like what I feel like I was sold when I was younger, like, don't you want to get rich? It feels more like, don't you want to be able to maneuver your money the way that you want to move it?
I love that so much because that's exactly the goal of it is so that when you're managing your money in this way, you know when it's enough. And that doesn't mean that you have to cap yourself, but there's an
Absolutely.
energy of, right? Like, I want this specific amount of money for this vacation. Or, like, I remember because it was happening during Pride Month, you were like, next Pride Month, right? When next year comes around, I want to be able to have like this amount of money in that bucket to be able to spend, right? And then there's also like, okay, raising your baseline, right? Like increasing lifestyle. And what does that actually look like? And then what's the numbers attached to that? So it just makes making more money so much more specific and attainable. And then
Yes.
it also doesn't become that greedy money hoarding that we see at the top level, which every billionaire needs a money coach because what the actual fuck is your scarcity mindset that you don't want to share? I digress. Angry Fags. Go see it in August. We'll have the link in the show notes.
If we can, I mean, hopefully, no, I'm not going to say that.
Nope. Not putting that into the ether.
If he fucking touches my play, I swear to God.
Absolutely not. I would love to move on to your investments because one of the things that you did during those 3 months was moving your investments from an advisor you were working with to a different bank to being self-managed.
Essentially, before moving to New York, I took a couple of years and worked a salaried manager position. We had a matching program with them, where it's like if I invest however much, they would match a certain amount. So that enabled me to move to New York to have some sort of money in an investment account. Yes, it wasn't an investment account. It was not invested in anything. It was just sitting there. And I guess growing like what? That's like $1,000 a year. I mean, it was like kind of growing, but not really. Right. I knew it existed. It existed with UBS. It was red.
UBS.
It was UBS.
Okay. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I felt like going through an advisor was complicated. I was confused. I felt like after doing your training, I had enough information to do it myself. And I feel sexier being able to log in and be like, I'm going to put some here, I'm going to put some here, let's see what happens. And I'm going to move it around myself because my portfolio is not large enough that the guidance I received is sufficient and I'm capable of managing it on my own. I don't need help right now. So you recommended Fidelity. I'm still at Fidelity. And the process was like shockingly easy. I like had to call, I had to sign a couple of papers. It did the transit from one place to the other. Like there is a period of time where the money is temporarily floating in the ether, which freaks me the fuck out, but it's like standard and it's totally normal and that's me. But like for those who are like considering doing this, like just know that might happen and that's normal, but it freaks me out too. And then it was over in Fidelity and I was able to like go in and utilize the resources that you provided for us and follow some people on Instagram who gave free advice and kind of just compare. I did some studying, but ultimately I made a lot of similar choices, or what I believe are similar choices to what you make as far as how I break down my investments.
And
Yeah.
the great thing about investments is once you invest them, like they grow on their own. So even if you have a year where you're not putting money into an investment account, it's still going to grow and do its thing. And so like there's still forward movement, even if you feel like there's not forward movement, right, in what you're contributing, which is different than when money's sitting in a savings account, right? So that's one of the benefits of investments.
So with my minimal investments, so my overall portfolio,
Can you change that phrasing that you just said?
what did I say?
You said
Yeah.
with my minimal investments. Not to
And
coach you on.
this is what coaching with Brooke is like, everyone. Are you sure? I'm just kidding. Please do it. It's so good. Look how much fun we're having. The progress that I've made this year that I hope to accelerate even more in the future with the investing I've been able to do. I started out around 17K, and this happened literally, has it even been a year? No. My stuff got into Fidelity October 3rd
Wow.
of 2024. I'm now at like 19.7K.
Yeah.
And I've done nothing. I touched it maybe twice. I think I did a little bit of tweaking. Sexy, right? Cute.
So sexy. And why, and so everyone to hear, like, why I said, can we change that phrasing, is because when you said minimal investments and then 17K is the actual number, there are people who will hear 17K and be like, holy shit, that's so much. That's so much in an investment account,
Well,
you know?
I want to qualify it.
Yeah,
I'm like,
what? What's
yeah,
coming up?
but
Yeah, but what?
I'm like, yeah, but I didn't actively save all that. Like I had a matching employer and I just like there was COVID and I ate it on my paycheck. And so like I didn't need as much because no one was doing anything. Like, yeah, look at this. My impulse immediately, this is the shit you work on in coaching, was to undersell because I'm like, no, guys, I'm not. And you know what? Let me go deeper with that. The reason I feel the need to qualify is because it's attainable. 17K, even you saying that to me, I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ, money. But I did it, and I could do it again, and you could do it too. The thing is, it happened over time, so it never felt the thing that. Okay, see, this is the mindset. Like this is why, like the mindset work can benefit and be to your detriment outside of what is actually happening with your money. So just know that took fucking time and you can do it too. And Brooke can help you do it.
And the thing
Slay.
about saying those numbers and not adding a qualifier of like, this is too little, this is minimal, or like, this is a lot, this is so expensive. Like, whenever we add those qualifiers, at the end of the day, like, money is just numbers. We've talked about this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So having the neutrality around that amount and then figuring out why, like what qualifier you want to add on to it and why. So like for you, it was downplaying like that you earned that money. Like that money doesn't really feel like you earned it or that it's yours. And this is a very common thing for creatives, not owning the money that is in our world. And I think I'm just going to rant for a minute on divine compensation because I think it's
Yeah.
artists and creatives, like if we get a little spiritual and energetic, our world, like especially now in this like kludge of a capitalistic society we live in here in America, being compensated for artistic creative work is so not the norm. Like it's not held in
Right.
high esteem. And so when we're talking about creatives though in our hearts and being compensated, we all deserve to be compensated. And I
Totally.
believe that that happens in other avenues versus just I do art and I get paid for art. There's so many other ways that compensation happens. And so for you
Yes.
ending up in this job that also had a match, so that during this time in your life, the thing that's grounding you is being able to look at the 19,000 now that's in your investment account and being like, I'm okay. Look at what I did. But like all of that was earned by you. I have
Yeah.
a client who got a huge like chunk of money in her divorce settlement, right? And she like didn't believe, she didn't want to claim that that was hers, or like I had a castmate in the show I just did
Mhm.
where a family member gave her money just like because,
Because, yeah.
and that was the week that she didn't pick up as much hours in her virtual job. And it was like this divine compensation of I'm going to take
Yes.
a breath and just focus on this artistic work. And all of a sudden, this gift money came in. And so thinking about like, not disqualifying any money that's coming into your life because there is something trying to compensate you. So like say yes, yes, that's my 17K and I earned that. Yes, that money's in my bank account and it is mine. So I just wanted to speak on that because I think this is like, I mean, I'm using you as an example, but this is a very
Yeah.
common feeling.
I love that you're talking about divine compensation, looking, comparing it to my job, because as I was hearing you speak back to me, kind of what I said to you, I was like, yeah, I don't think I've worked at a place until now where I truly felt my employer supports me being an artist.
Mm.
Yeah, like at Verse Bar in Hell's Kitchen, come say hi. Come say
We
hi.
love you, Verse.
Come say hi. I would love for y'all to introduce yourself to me. It is one thing to have a job that allows you schedule flexibility. But it's another thing to have a job that's like, congratulations, good for you. Tell us what you do, we'll make it happen. And that is a kind of compensation that is like, I don't know how, I actually think negotiating that would be kind of tricky. Being like,
Yeah.
I need you to be excited whenever I have to be gone to do artistic work.
I remember one of the things that was coming up a lot at this time last year for you was navigating um cr- living the artistic creative life you want to live and
Mm-hmm.
feeling financially deserving of the financial life that you wanted to live.
Mm-hmm.
And there was this energy of the only way that that could happen is me being a full-time artist and making all of my money from my art. And we worked a lot on separating those two things, but
Mm-hmm.
like you've been talking about a lot, like this alignment. And what I think is so cool about where you've ended up now is like this alignment of full-time artist, but money is coming from a place that isn't directly art, but this place is fostering your ability to go do art whenever, wherever, with whoever, right? And there's other dominoes to fall in the future, but there's this alignment that has happened from that, even though it might have been a different path than you expected. So, can
Yeah.
you share a little bit about what you remember from that specific conversation or things that yeah, like ahas or things that shifted like tactically for you from that?
Yeah, I think this is going to circle back all the way to what we started this freaking interview with. Okay,
Look at that.
so I entered really feeling like I want all my money to come from art. I just want to be a full time artist. Like I don't want to have a side job. Da, 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 whatever. And I think that was directly related to what we talked about at the top of all of this, where I had felt for so long like I had to prove like being an artist is valid. Being an artist,
Mm,
I might not be rich off of it, or maybe I will be, but like, uh, it's a valid choice, and I'll be okay, and like I'll figure it out, and like my art is valuable and has value that is transcends capitalism, blah blah blah, whatever, right? I had spent so long in a place of insecurity, with blinders on, with fear around money, and had so much joy from artistic ventures that I was like, I just need those two things to be married together and they'll take care of themselves. And then when we worked to separate that, and I started working on understanding myself. Important to flag that I have not mentioned this anywhere yet. I've also been back in therapy this year. So
Mm,
if your insurance allows you to, helpful, right? So in doing the money the money work and making time to understand myself, I was actually able to go, wait, okay, if I remove the pressure and the opinions I have from money, but I still know I have the joy from the art, and I'm looking objectively at like the regions, the areas of my life, the multi-hyphenate areas where I feel most aligned. How does my artistic career change? How does my money change? And what does my day-to-day look like? Um, in my perfect world, right? And going, I like doing multiple things. Like, I actually don't think that only being a director, actor, producer all the time, if all my money came from that, I think I would soon also be like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. Maybe I should go back to writing. Right? I am realizing
yeah.
with my human design type being manifesting generator,
Mm-hmm.
I like to bop around, do all the things. So now I have this more expanded understanding of what works for me, and I'm like, oh, okay. I also feel like more secure having like diverse income streams, right? So like if it looks like working at a bar while I also do creative work and then maybe entertaining some other things, like actually that's chill. So yeah, freeing myself from the idea, although if you do want all of your money to come solely from creative, well, like I think that's totally valid, totally fair. For me, it was a huge relief to let that go.
Yeah, and two, like when you take the pressure off of your art to make money, like when you're not looking at your artistic life being like, pay my rent, bitch. Like when you remove that, like the kind of art that you create and how you approach your creative life is different. And like we see this with theaters who are there, like if we're looking at a theater entity saying like feeling like this art needs to make money. That's why we're seeing an all male choice of season from a certain theater here in the city, right? Where it's like that's actually fucking insane that these plays have been chosen, but it's because, right? Like they're trying to make money, they're trying to make the donors happy, like all of that. But when you like remove the pressure to make art or to make money off of your art, then the art actually is better and not just creatively, but just better in general, leading with authenticity and what you actually want to make, and then like tends to actually make more money. So it's like
Yeah.
when you remove the pressure of making all your money off of your art, then that's what makes it more likely to make all of your money off of your art. But like you were saying, like when we look at even artists who have very big creative success, a lot of them then also do other things. They create a
Yes.
line of something, they start directing and producing, they do other projects because they get bored. Like that nobody ends there.
I would love nothing more. Someone, someone play this back in 10 years when it's happening, please. Would love nothing more than to just be like the face for someone's fragrance and get a fat paycheck for just like doing, hang on, let me get my fan, for just like doing the like,
If anyone
and
has a
spraying your
fragrance that needs a
perfume.
face.
I also have really beautiful long hair. If you want to do something showcasing men with long hair, um, yo, I am all for commercials. I've started missing them. I'm like, it's time to get back into that.
Yeah.
Um, but yes, I see celebrities, I see artists that I really love who like they have their success and then how do they sustain it with partnerships, with products, with these other things that yeah, okay, sometimes I have opinions about. So there's
Right.
certain collabs and certain things that I have opinions about, right? But there's no ethical consumption under capitalism. Don't not me fucking up the quote. Y'all know what I mean.
Capitalism,
Um,
consumerism, it's all the same.
Happy 4th of July, everyone. Um, anyway, yeah, I mean, all of these artists that I really look to as inspiration have diverse streams of income. And so I'm like, okay, what is mine gonna look like when I'm up there?
This has been such an incredible conversation. Before we hop off, can you tell people where they can connect with you? Is there anything else you want to share with people on how to find you, how to connect with you?
Totally. I am most easily accessible and preferred to be accessed on Instagram. My handle is at
Camron.Alexander7. Camron is spelled Camron, no E. Angry Fag Shit will also be linked in my Instagram bio. If you want to follow the show specifically, it's at Angry Fags, but the A is an underscore because censors. That's everything. Yeah, I am so glad to have been here. I'm so thankful for you and how you have shaped my artistic and creative journey and my financial journey and my artistic life. And I hope this podcast changes more people, gets more people on board, connects us to more people. Thank you for the work you're doing, and thank you for freaking having me here.
Thank you so much, Cameron. I thank you for coming on and sharing your story and sharing just like the real shit that goes on behind the computer screen, right? In the bowels of the artistic life, right? And also the money stuff. So thank you for sharing because I know so many people are going to resonate with this. This has been a wonderful, wonderful discussion.
My pleasure.
Thanks so much for tuning in. Come join me on Instagram for more on how to build a simple, sexy relationship with your money. My Instagram handle is @NotStarvingArtists. And if you want to dive deeper with me, head to the show notes to learn more about one-on-one coaching. If you love this episode, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend that you want to get rich with.